All right, welcome to the first ever Edison annual shareholder event. So there we go. Well, guys, thanks for coming out to this first ever annual meeting. It's kind of cool. This is the first time we've ever been able to invite everybody out to kind of see what we're doing, show the trucks. Before, we've always been in my parents' backyard, and they're like, yeah, please don't invite so many people around. Over 100 people signed up to come here today, so that's just absolutely incredible. So I'd start out with, I gotta say thanks to everyone for coming out here, and thanks for seeing the new property. This right here is the old truck shop. So little history of Donald, BC. If you notice the Make Donald Great Again hats. This used to be one of the largest towns in British Columbia back in the 1800s. There was an entire town here, and this was the western point for the Alberta side of the Canadian Pacific Railway. So they built an entire town in here. In 1910, they decided to relocate the town to Golden. They burnt all the houses down. Some of them, they floated down the Columbia River. They actually skidded the houses down to the river, floated them into town, into Golden, and then moved them out. Back then it became a rail yard and rail reload. Then it became Evans Forest Product, which is where that old mill from the 1950s, that big warehouse. This shop here was the old truck mechanics, mobile equipment mechanic shop. So it came with the property. We're building the new shop over there. That's going to be the 100 by 300 square foot shop. Construction's hopefully starting the end of August, beginning of September on that. But in the meantime, we do have a couple trucks to build. So we've basically spent the last couple months restoring. This thing was loaded with what you would imagine 50 years of industrial build-up, old truck stuff, sawmill equipment. So we stripped this down. We now have everything kind of relocated. This truck chassis that you see here, that's the first one that got here. The M-Con and the International chassis didn't make it here yet. I still got to pick those up. Beyond the shop build, we also need to have a test track. Under requirements for Canadian Motor Vehicle Safety Standards and Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards, we are required to test these trucks on a test track. 0 to 60 test, braking test, brake burnishing test, where you go at 100 kilometers an hour, slow down to 40 kilometers an hour, back to 100, and you got to run that for 6 hours continuous to watch for brake fade, straight line braking, ABS, and that was one of the problems. So Topsy got a U-built registration because we couldn't take it out to a test track to do the testing. Because you need to run at your full gross vehicle weight, pretty well every single racetrack said, phone them up and say, hey, can we do some truck testing? And they said, yeah, that sounds great, let's do some vehicle testing. What are you gonna be running? Oh, well, a Super B logging truck. No, that will destroy our racetrack. So in order to get our CMVSS, once these trucks are complete, then we put them out onto the test track. That allows us to build it. We've basically this week, we had our consultant from CMVSS. These are the huge updates. We had our consultant from CMVSS. We passed our airline stuff. We passed our air tanks, mirrors. He went through all of the parts we ordered. All of the parts are now approved to start assembling these chassis and building them. And basically the last thing we need to do is we've got to do a seatbelt test on the new cab. Once the BDE cab is done, we'll have to do our seatbelt tests. And then we build the truck, and then hopefully it's up to Spencer to get that test track done within 2-3 months. No pressure. All he has to do is build an entire racetrack. But yeah, this is essentially it, so we'll go and have a little look and walk through it.
Yeah, feel free to ask us as many questions as possible, and really appreciate you coming out today.
Your ROI and the whole truck and it helps self-configuration. One of the biggest changes on the back here is on these electric axles. You see the difference on the new ones in the shop versus these ones. This was one of the things in, watch that Everything Wrong with Topsy video, that's too much weight off of the front. This design of axle is not great because you have just a giant leverage of that electric motor bouncing. Those other dual motors weren't available at the time when we ordered the parts for Topsy. That was a newer product. So we faced them backwards because an electric motor should spin the same both directions. But the company that built these, they won't let us have access to the software, so we had to lock the axle into second gear because it wasn't designed to shift in reverse. It's meant to stay in one gear, so we had to take it apart, manually lock it into the second gear, and then trick it to think that it's running in the proper gear. So first axle there is actually only ever in second gear because it doesn't shift. And now it's just a direct drive, doesn't have to, the new axles, just each motor is independently driven. And the other annoying part is that you had to manually disconnect this one for towing. You're not supposed to tow it, but the other ones have automatic button you can hit that'll disconnect the axles for towing. And then a manual one that's really easy. You just reach in, take a cover off, you flip a lever and it engages it without having to pull axle stub shafts out. Saves the towing a heck of a lot of effort on that one. It also, the newer axles that are coming on the next one have integrated MCUs, motor control units.
Are you going to do your powered steer axles?
We looked into that. We were going to put that on the International and then we were like, we don't have the time to play around with that. Let's just put that onto the shelf for now. But there is a set of powered steer axles and they're independent front suspension, which is really, really cool. So it's a air ride 20,000 pound independent front suspension. We can go have a look at that later. It's actually pretty wicked, but like, believe it or not, with Peter designing an entire cab by himself, also doesn't have time to engineer a independent front suspension mount system. We've got to hire a couple additional mechanical engineers if we want to do a few more things. You guys want to see Carl, the very first truck here? This is where it all started on our very first proof of concept when we started this company. Essentially, this truck has a ripped apart Tesla motor. So we tore apart a Tesla. It's got Tesla batteries in here, a 3306 Cat, and it was crude enough that we basically bought a like fast charger that you sit on the side of the highway. We fried that, by the way. But that's how I would charge it, and it basically ran a generator to charge a fast charger, to charge the batteries, just to prove that we could actually build it, control the electric truck, run the air compressor. But we run the 500 horsepower Tesla motor into a Spicer 4-speed auxiliary because I needed deep reduction in the rear ends. So we locked that Spicer deep reduction into second gear for like a 2.5 reduction into a normal set of rear ends. Problem with that, with the electric torque, is that it constantly snaps drive lines. So we actually have those shear bolts in there, and we found out that 4 bolts was the perfect amount to shear without blowing out your ring and pinion or snapping the U-joints. So this was the very first one, and you're like, that was like, you got driveline vibration and issues, and then with that, we had to put the batteries out on the side of the box. Well, now if somebody comes in there, so now we can drop those batteries into the frame rail, which means we can get additional batteries. The A-axle allows a lot better performance and control. Topsy's performance blows this one away. It was a huge leap forward. And now what's kind of cool is that the next trucks are also pretty well as much as Topsy is to what this one is. It's the same kind of leap forward on the new ones. What's wild on that is the controls on the EV side. Over on this side is the wiring harness for the EV. So everything under the dash on that side is all controls for the generator. Just to control that diesel motor, the generator is all the controls. The wiring harness on this is so tiny. Right here. Where's it come out here? Right here. These are all of the wires that control the entire EV side of it. Compared to that, just to control the diesel side. Like the wiring harnesses between the diesel versus the electric, because you're just commanding forward, reverse, generator on, generator off, or compressor on, compressor off. I mean, that being said, it's also from the 1960s, so there's not quite as many things either. We got nominated for Canada's top 20 clean tech companies. You need to go check out one of Canada's top 50 or top 10 clean companies. And then the same day, people went to the link and there's just a logging truck rolling black smoke through a parking lot. They email us back and they're like, we're rescinding that. You're like, no. That's not the look. Canada's top clean innovation, a bunch of loggers rolling coal in a 1960s truck. Well, you guys want to go see the rest of the property here? Might as well see the 300 acres, do a little walk on the test track. Yeah, let's go check out the test track. It's about a 3-kilometer walk, so we're gonna be a bit. What can the cost to...
So gorgeous of a day. We ended up walking the whole test track, about 3 kilometers, and we're here by the river. I mean, it's so spectacular to think we have a river flowing through the property. I'm surprised no one's swimming. It's so freaking hot out. So next we're going to be going and getting some lunch. We got a nice caterer out today, so I'm sure we're all working up an appetite because we walked our butts off.
We just finished the walk around the property. Now everyone's coming up here to the merch store. We got a hot dog stand set up where one of the local ranchers is providing some hot dogs. Sitting here, relax for an hour, and then we're gonna go up and give the corporate presentation. So far, we don't know what we're saying in this presentation. We don't have anything really ready, but we'll figure it out in the next half hour. Right, Eric?
Hell yeah, buddy. Yeah, very spontaneous.
Deeper. What is that? You beat that crazy. There you go. Get a tandem shot. Yeah. Look at the eye contact he's got.
It's also not a pry bar.
It's not a plane.
I'm kind of hard right now.
Yeah.
Never make eye contact with a man eating a hot dog.
Walk out that door, no, yeah.
JT Ranch, we're a local ranch. We raise Wagyu, Angus, and Bison. We really focus on the Wagyu. We do everything ourselves from start to finish. We raise the beef, butcher it, make our own pepperoni, beef jerky, that kind of stuff. We have a couple storefronts, one in Invermere, and we're just out here. Edison gave us a shout, asked if we'd come out and cook for him, and we're really happy to be out here.
So dirty.
I rode my motorcycle from Seattle to be here today. I wanted to come out to Donald, first off, because I've never been to this part of BC before, but mostly because I love what Edison is doing. I love the way they think. I love the right to repair. I love the EV ideas. It's just everything they're doing is clever, and they're really thinking about it from a practical perspective. And I just wanted to make them feel supported. And so I wanted to be here for this.
I'm the president of Rainier Truck and Chassis of Yakima, Washington. I drove up here about 520 miles to see Chace and your team. Seeing these guys, what they do versus the other folks, meaning all the high-tech corporate boys, the hands-on knowledge and the can-do attitude will get them anywhere they want to go. End of discussion.
So not only is it Investor Day, but it's also the launch of our merch store. We've been working on it for the last couple weeks, getting everything set up, and now for Investors Day, we are selling merch. It's actually pretty busy. We're still working out the kinks, like getting, right now you have to pay by cash or PayPal or e-transfer, but it's turning out pretty good. So we got a bunch of merch that's not in the store yet. We got like the Make Donald Great Again hats, which is a joke because we're in Donald. We have all sorts of different stuff. This was my merch. I'm DTF of Edison Motors, the director of truck filming. So I got merch in here. We got Hardwork Industries, that's Spencer doing all of our earthworks here. And then we also have, I don't know if we can show it, but we got in trouble, or we had a trademark, and there was a certain company that maybe like their last name would be Nicola.
First name.
First name would be Nicola. Thank you, Ray. And so the other people, we had merch with that on it, and we can't sell it on our website anymore, but you might be able to get that in the merch store. If you read between the lines there, you'll figure it out. My wife, Alishka, she is super busy running her head off, but she does all the merch shipping here, has been shipping you guys your orders, and now she's putting out all the orders right here. So there we go, merch store is up and running.
I traveled from the Netherlands to come here. I'm Italian, but I'm studying mechanical engineering in the Netherlands. So I was interested in this, and it happened to be between the end of courses and the exams. I traveled so far to come here because I was trying to do my internship at Edison, and I never got an answer to my email, so I thought, well, let's go old school and go ask the question in person.
I've been following this thing for about 2 years now, and anyways, I wanted to come see it in person, so we decided to drive all the way from Georgia back in the States, all the way here to come see how something could come from so little to so much, and hopefully one day make it into the States to be able to see it actual work.
I came here from Toronto, flew into Calgary, and then drove, I don't know, 3.5 hours or so to get here. And I'm actually here for several days. I came for today, the shareholders event, but then I'm also staying some extra days to help finish the cabins.
That's kind of a Herculean effort.
3 years ago, we started off with a really crazy idea. Started off on TikTok when we looked at the way electric trucks were going. Saw the advantage of electric trucks, especially in the logging industry here with these mountains. You're going up that mountain empty, you're coming down that mountain loaded to regenerate those braking. Me and Eric have been business partners for, what, 10 years now? Yeah, over 10 years we've been in business together. We had a few trucks. We reserved a Tesla Semi after waiting for like 5 years to get that Tesla Semi, and then seeing that, learning more about electric vehicles as we transitioned to trucking, to doing hybrid systems. Realized that that truck was not built for our needs as loggers. We started looking at building our own truck, and we got into, so trucking went to logging, logging meant to low bedding. Low bedding involves hauling generators. Hauling generators lead into designing power systems. Designing power systems, me and Eric were both nerdy about solar, and Eric, who is really the smart guy for all this electrical part of it, we were doing a project up north. And it was a diesel powered community where they had a 90 kilowatt hour generator. We looked and like, that's pretty high. But Eric put it together a plan. The average load was only about 25, 30 kilowatts. So we realized, oh, well, why don't we put in solar, a battery bank? The battery could take the peak load, because the peak load would go to 70. That's why they wanted a 90 kilowatt to take that extra capacity. We'd meet the peak load demand with the batteries, and then the generator would just fire up to recharge the batteries. We could reduce it from a 90 kilowatt down to a 35 kilowatt hour generator and just make the whole thing more efficient. And at this time, we had already reserved that Tesla Semi, so we're like, well, why don't you just do it that with a generator? So we took that knowledge from doing that system, and we decided that, well, how hard could it be? We'll do our own truck, and it turns out very hard. Like really, really a lot harder than you think. But we built Carl over there. Basically, we announced it online. The support we had was incredible. Me and Eric, at that moment, okay, we're not gonna do hybrid power systems anymore. We were doing those solar light towers. Let's put those aside. We're all in on this. And we spent the next year building Carl. We ripped apart that wrecked Tesla, put the motors in, put an old 3306 cat. We tested it out. There were some issues with the driveline snapping. Turns out a Tesla Model S is not rated to move 100,000 pounds of logs. Yeah, weird. But we learned the lessons from that. And then we put it together in Topsy. And Topsy is a huge step up. Like Rich said, we can move 100,000 pounds like it's nothing. We went from snapping drive lines to taking 100,000 pounds like it was nothing. We've moved Super Bs, we pulled low beds. It still had some issues though, if you guys watch the Everything Wrong with Topsy video. As far as the financial ethos goes on Edison, why we do keep our costs low, one of the things, we have zero debt and zero intention of ever maintaining any debt. So everything we've ever bought for this company, we bought with cash, so we have no payment, which means that really, other than a little bit of electricity, our only variable cost is salary. That's where we've been able to achieve on this with very little means. So we're really, really proud of the team for that.
Yeah, it's all to do with the off-the-shelf nature of the beast, right? Like trying to get as many parts that we can off the shelf, and when we're designing something, it's all about mass production in mind, being able to use these parts to put into our trucks easily. We're trying to build a great truck, and it's all thanks to your help. So again, thank you so much. It's been incredible.
Hold on a second.
Oh.
I do want to say that we still have zero venture capital, zero institutional investors. We have still continued to tell them no. What's going to happen now is they're setting up dinner. We got dinner for everybody. It's going to be over by Topsy. We hired a local food truck to do the catering. That's from 6:30 to about 7:30. After that, the event technically ends. And then we're going to bring out, we got a couple of kegs. Eric got a whole barrel of whiskey, a couple drinks for the boys. All right, well, let's go have some dinner.
What excites me the most about Edison Motors is really what I learned today in the investor meeting was their long-term vision for what they're doing, because they're not going to just create 500,000 vehicles or 5,000 vehicles and send them out there. They're going to do they're doing the prototyping, they're doing the work, they're doing the mileage, you know.
What I see is the hybrid technology. There's no doubt, and the markets that are available to them. All they gotta do is knock on the doors of the motorhome industry, you know, the cab over truck business, which we're in, and keep developing that.
Chace answered a question earlier today. Somebody said, well, why can't you make these faster? He says, well, or how long will the batteries last? Or why can't we get more trucks in the production line? And all of his answer to all of those questions is that we got to put 1 million kilometers on these things. Till I drive 1 million kilometers in this thing, I don't know that all these systems are going to work and that they're going to be repairable. And that's just fantastic. That is such a great way to build a product.
You take these two boys that's been driving a truck, and they take something from their idea and they incorporate it into something that's going to be life-changing one day.
Well, the whole reason why we're here, standing over here, but you can probably hear in the background that generator running. That's a big piece of what Edison is erasing from the job site, is that noise pollution and the opportunity. Wow. Can you imagine if every person living, I'm from Ontario, so every person living in rural Ontario has a vehicle that when there's a major winter storm, they can just plug that vehicle into their house and it will power their house. It's just, to just say that, it's like, do you get that?
My biggest message to the team is they're doing it right. They really are. From the social media to the engineering to the right to repair to keeping the design all in-house to working on the lighter duty vehicles, the commercial truck, then the EV truck. You guys are doing it right.
Love their openness, what they're doing, and just keep it up, guys.
It really makes me proud that someone from BC is doing something so visionary and concrete. It just fills me with a lot of pride. So keep up the good work, and the vision is amazing, and I really hope it all goes through.
Yeah, it's just everything they're doing. This shareholders event, you know, and the party that all of last night, yesterday, and today has been, I would just say thank you. I'm really glad they came up with the idea and they're doing something about it.
I hope Edison gets recognized for what they are and how good the technology is.
Congratulations to the media crew. It is what has evolved Edison into what it is today. And that is exposure. And that exposure, you know, invites folks into a, you know, ground floor opportunity. And that's all they're looking for. Something exciting, something that makes sense.
Boys, just keep up a good job and don't let nobody step in and take it away from you. Keep it all simple and keep it to yourselves and make yourself happy on what you're doing, because you're breaking ground into new things that's going to go a long ways.
Well, I would like to see them have all the success in the world and keep having fun, and because I think they're moving ahead for all of us in Canada and for future generations.
So it is about 11 o'clock at night here. As you can see, there is still about 40, 50 people around the bonfire. It is going so well. Today was an amazing day. People came from all over. People came from Italy. People drove from 4 hours from southern US. And it was just an amazing day. We've learned some cool things that we're gonna do next year. And the first ever annual Edison shareholder meeting was a huge success. I can't wait for next year. We already got some really cool ideas of what we're gonna do for that. So thanks everyone that came out, and we will see you at next year's Edison annual shareholder meeting.
She's my sweet little thing. She's my pride and joy. She's my sweet little lady. I'm my little lover boy.
That was awesome.
Thank you. Encore.